So maybe you've read some books or listened to some podcasts about landlording, and you can probably tell it's not rocket science, right? For the most part, you can figure these things out. They're relatively straightforward once you know what you're doing. But here's the thing. What a lot of people don't grasp is landlording is one of those things that you have to learn as you go. And what I mean by that is you kind of take each experience you go through as a landlord, right? Whether it's dealing with tenants, dealing with contractors, and you use that experience moving forward, and you might get stung once, but you're not gonna get stung twice. So what I thought I would do with you guys in this video is share the top 4 mistakes I see over and over again from brand new landlords, right? Who are just getting into the game, who have done all their research, are excited because they've read their blogs, their books, their podcasts, and now are actually doing it for the first time. So if you're just getting into the game, maybe you just bought your first property, you're thinking about buying your first property, make sure you check this video out because you're probably gonna be one of those people to repeat this mistake. So let's get into this video. What's going on, guys? My name's Lior and welcome back to my channel. I'm super excited to do this video because as I said, I see a lot of similar mistakes getting repeated over and over again by brand new real estate investors, especially those that are going into the rental property game. Now, before I get into those top 4 mistakes, super quick, if this is your first time on my channel, make sure you smash that subscribe button. I put out tons of new videos every single week talking about landlording, the real estate investing game, specifically buy and holds, and your personal financials as it relates to real estate investing. So if that's the kind of content you're interested in, make sure you give me a subscribe. So with that, I'm gonna dive into the top 4 mistakes that I see happen over and over again. And let's start with number 1, which is one that probably is the hardest to explain to new investors, but is really a real thing, is Mickey Mousing work. And here's what I mean by that, right? As a landlord, you are going to run into maintenance issues, right? I mean, it's just gonna happen, right? It's part of the business, it's just part of the nature of owning brick and mortar. Things are gonna stop functioning, they're gonna need repair, yada, yada, yada. And as a landlord, you're often gonna come across junctions where you're like, well, I can either kind of try and patch this up, I kind of call it throwing a Band-Aid on something, or you're actually gonna really dive deep and do the proper work behind it so that that problem completely goes away in the future. Now, it's not always there's not always a yes or no answer, right? That's correct or incorrect. A lot of this is obviously, of course, personal philosophy, what you're thinking about, what your philosophy is going to be in terms of your investment, right? But as someone that plans on owning rental property for a very long time, right? Each piece of property I buy, I plan on sitting on it for at least 3 to 5 years, ideally 10 to 20 years, right? Because that's just how I play the game. As someone that's doing that, it is really important to be able to control your maintenance properly. And if you're gonna tackle each maintenance request you get as just a Band-Aid, right? Like where you're kind of gonna do the bare minimum, just cover it up, and hopefully that does the job. I'll tell you, you're probably not gonna go very far, right? Because those maintenance things are just gonna continue to grow and grow over time. And if you just kind of do a crappy job and just trying to tinker around here, kind of do some homemade solution there, those maintenance issues are gonna keep coming back full. And most of the time, what I hear from new investors is, well, I don't want to spend the money up front, right? I'd rather just reserve it and try to really minimize my cost up front. But what they don't understand is that by minimizing their cost up front, they're actually exposing themselves to a ton of cost down the line, right? Because that problem is not going to go away. Again, brick and mortar is brick and mortar. If it's broken, it's broken. You throwing a little Band-Aid on it is not going to repair it, right? So if you think you're going to squeeze pennies up front by doing that kind of work, I can tell you I tried that when I first started out, and believe me, it will bite you down the line, right? And especially when you're talking about things like, big stuff like anything to do with plumbing or electrical, anything like that, trying to Band-Aid those kinds of issues is just not a good idea. So my point is, evaluate each situation carefully, but don't be one of those investors that just tries to Band-Aid everything. Sometimes you need to spend that money up front, but it's money very well spent because you're investing it into your property, you're showing your tenants you care, and you're avoiding further down the line costs into the future. Mistake number 2 that I see a lot of people do is when trying to select a contractor, selecting them purely based on price, right? instead of quality and reliability. And here's what I mean, right? Any job you're gonna do, right? You're probably gonna try to get a couple of bids from contractors and see where they all land, right? In terms of pricing, scope of work, timeline, and all that. Now, many new investors are super hyper focused on how do I cut that cost today, right? How do I get the cheapest quote? How do I save the most amount of money today? And that's like what they're super glued on. And I can tell you price certainly price certainly matters to me as well. I'm not like just throwing bills out the window by any means. But for me, what I really look at beyond price is two things. A is quality of work, and B is reliability. And the reason for that is twofold, right? For quality of work, I think it speaks for itself. What's the point of paying a cheap price if that problem is gonna come back in a couple months, right? Again, it's like kind of deferring costs, right? You're trying to save costs today, but all you're really doing is just gonna add yourself more bills down the line. And if you're gonna hold on to the property for a long time, what's the point, right? You're really just putting yourself more in a bigger financial risk. And point number two about that, in the reliability, this is kind of more of just how I like to run my business, but for me, I hate trying to chase down contractors. Like, there's nothing worse to me than trying to hire a contractor, then maybe they do a day or two's worth of work, and then it's like, hey, are you done? Oh no, I gotta be on this job site. Oh no, I got something else to do, right? That like drives me insane, right? Especially for me, because I run another business, I'm a real estate agent, I run a team, so I need to spend my time and efforts on there. I've got a ton of other rental properties that I own, right? And again, if I have to run down every single contractor and ask them, hey, did you finish this job? Are you done here? I'm literally going to lose my freaking mind, right? So reliability for me is super important, right? I want to work with someone that I can, that I have pretty good amount of faith in, where if I give them the work, I know it's going to get done within a reasonable amount of time, right? So for me, the quality of work and reliability almost always trumps price. Now let's go to mistake number 3, which is new investors are sometimes a little too nice to tenants and contractors and other vendors. And here's what I mean by that is, it's natural for us when you're first stepping into the business to try and please everyone, right? You certainly want to provide excellent customer service to your tenants. You certainly want to have great relationships with your contractors. But what you'll learn kind of through the school of hard knocks is, even if you try to put out all the best energy to people, to tenants, contractors, and all that, at the end of the day, not everyone's gonna reciprocate that to you, right? And sometimes you have to be able to draw the foot in the sand, right? You have to be able to stand up and say, look, no, that's not okay, right? And I'm not saying you don't show compassion, you don't show understanding and all that, but there are situations where, you kind of have to be a little bit of an ass, right? If I'm being honest, because again, if you're not, the people will take advantage of it. I mean, I remember one of my first tenants, they kind of played me, they strung me up like that. They were super nice to me, but they knew exactly how to kind of play me a little bit, and they kind of got away with some things they really shouldn't have gone away with. And this also applies to contractors, right? Again, contractors, especially if you're maybe someone that's younger and you're dealing with older contractors, I see that a lot, right? Like, they'll kind of just play it off a little bit. They'll be like, oh, don't worry, this is how it's done, or oh, this is normal, or yeah, this additional cost, There's a million different things you can hear. But my point is, sometimes you just need to be able to draw that foot in the sand and say, look, that's not okay, and actually just draw the line and tell them what you're what you're okay accepting and what is not okay, and what and what won't fly with you. And finally, mistake number 4 that I see a lot too, and again, I'm very guilty of doing this when I first started out, is don't let issues with tenants, contractors, vendors, all that stuff, don't let that get to you, right? Because as I said before, real estate, you see new things every single day. And even for myself, right? I mean, I've run into situations recently that I've never really experienced before, and I've been in the business now for quite a bit. So you're gonna get yourself into some weird situations or things that you just, would never have predicted from a million miles away, right? And my point here is, those are gonna happen, but don't let that get to you, right? Don't let that throw you off your game. Don't let that, don't let that mess with your head, because you're gonna have to kind of stand strong and in these kinds of situations, you're gonna have to stand strong, you're gonna have to make a firm decision, and you're gonna have to execute, right? And if you kind of let all this stuff get to your head and, you know, piss you off, get you in a bad mood, make you emotional, those are actually kind of, that's a little bit dangerous, right? Because that's when you can make bad decisions. That's when you can make emotional decisions. And again, I've been super guilty of that. And every time that happens to me in the past, I would like consciously think like, okay, look, you got kind of like really pissed off on this situation with this tenant or with this contractor. You got to keep a cooler head sometimes. So things are going to happen. Things are going to blow up in your face. Again, that maybe you foresaw or maybe you never foresaw and you had no idea how it would happen. But the point is, don't let it get to you. Just take yourself back, look at the situation, evaluate it, and then deal with it efficiently and execute on the plan. So hopefully that helps, guys. Hopefully take those lessons into heart, right? Because I guarantee you're going to run into each one of these situations and scenarios. So hopefully this helps, guys. If you guys have any questions, just make sure to put them below and I will definitely help you out.